In jail, I did 6 years. I had 4.5 years for carjacking. Ended up doing 6 for f***ing the house.
Keep on letting it think you gonna let put a battery in your back to where you gonna grow the nuts to try to do something to school. And you gonna damn it.
Shots fired into an SUV, killing the manager and family member of a popular Detroit rapper.
In the streets of Detroit, there's been a real messy feud going on between two rappers, 42 Dugg and Sada Baby. It's been causing a lot of chaos, and even worse, innocent people are getting hurt. This beef has been boiling over for 15 years, and it's been getting uglier by the day. It all started when there was a shootout outside a parole office. From there, things got real messy real fast. So 42 Dugg, he's from the tough part of Detroit, the East Side. He's been mixed up in gang stuff since he was a teenager hanging out with the 6 Mile 42 Hustle Boys, which is part of the Crips. Trouble seemed to follow him everywhere. At the young age of only 15, Dugg was already entrenched in street life. Eventually, he got caught and was sentenced to 4 years in prison for carjacking and felony firearms possession. That was back in 2010, but unfortunately, trouble did not stop there for 42 Dugg. An altercation with an inmate during his prison stint added another 2 years to his sentence during his 4-year bid into a 6-year ordeal.
I was in jail, I did 6 years. I had 4.5 years for carjacking. Ended up doing 6 for f***ing the house.
While he was locked up, he started writing rap lyrics. When he got out, he was dead set on making it big in the music biz. His track Mama I'm Sorry really struck a chord with folks, and that's when his career started taking off. He got noticed by Lil Baby and Yo Gotti, who signed him up. But here's the kicker. Sada Baby, he's been making waves too. He's from the 7 Mile area, and unlike 42 Dugg, however, he did not join a gang until he was 22 years old, which doesn't occur that often, as most rappers develop their gang affiliation sooner rather than later. He was persuaded to join and represent the Bloods. He also has connections to the Crips though. Through his Crip cousin, I swear Bezel, Sada linked up with some dope artists too. Sada's been doing tracks with some real street heavyweights like King Von and Fredo Bang. Tracks like Big Steppin' have been blowing up the scene. Both these guys are putting Detroit on the map in the rap game. But their beef has been causing a lot of problems. Shootouts, innocent people getting caught in the crossfire. It's a real tragedy. But despite all the drama, their music is keeping Detroit's musical legacy alive and kicking. The cause of their feud and the one aspect that links their fate in this conflict is their place of origin. It all started with two crews, the 6 Mile East Side Hustle Boys and the 7 Mile East Side Bloods. These two gangs have been at war for over 15 years. The 7 Mile Bloods were originally the dominant group in the area and had beef with most of the other local gangs, including the 42 Crips. The beef began to change around 2014 after a shooting outside a parole office led to an all-out war. Two hustle gang members known as 42 Twins crossed paths with a member of the 7 Mile Bloods outside the building where they all had appointments to meet with their parole officers. The 42 Twins jumped into a car with other members of their gang and were chased by the ops. The Bloods opened fire, hitting one of the 42 Twins and another hustle gang member in the car. Both the 42 Twins survived the shooting, but DeJohn Neff Page, the other dude who was shot, ended up going into a coma and later dying. Several members of the 7 Mile Bloods were picked up for the shooting. The 42 Twins were supposed to testify in court against their ops, but refused to take the stand at the last minute. After Page's death, the 42 Hustle Gang allied themselves with other enemies of the 7 Mile Bloods to challenge their control over the area and avenge the death of Neff. This resulted in a violent feud that rages to this day. So Dugg and Sada Baby are sworn ops, purely based on their gang affiliations. But things really heated up when a rapper named Tee Grizzley came into the scene. Dugg and Sada and problems started to merge. Teasing another rapper from Detroit ignited the conflict.
Shots fired into an SUV, killing the manager and family member of a popular Detroit rapper.
Tee Grizzley was never gang affiliated, but he did grow up in the streets. He was mostly raised by his grandmother in West Detroit because his parents were constantly in and out of jail. In 2011, his mother was sentenced to 20 years for drug tea, and his father was unalived in 2012. But despite having such a rough childhood, the rapper did his best to stay on the right path and even attended Michigan State University to study finance and accounting. But while in college, he struggled financially and began robbing other students' dorms for cash and electronics. He was eventually caught but released, while the school conducted an investigation. During that time, he and his friends went on the run and ended up robbing a jewelry store in Lexington, Kentucky. The robbery was unsuccessful and Grizzly, along with his 3 accomplices, were arrested. He was sentenced to 9 months for the jewelry store robbery and 18 months to 15 years for the robberies at Michigan State. He was released in 2016 and blew up with his First Day Out freestyle quickly after. Ever since, he's built a name for himself as one of the leading artists in the Detroit rap scene, having collaborated with everyone from Meek Mill to Lil Durk. Just because you aren't gang affiliated does not mean you can't get wrapped up in gang beef, and T Grizzly has gotten himself in the middle of the war between the 6 Mile Crips. Despite being a part of the streets himself, many believe that he should have known that this was a big mistake. However, it's also believed the T was in it for the moolah and didn't really care about the drama that would follow ultimately, as his intro was building his brand and providing for those who were close to it. That's no different from what other hustlers like Young Dolph did. It's a matter of creating something out of nothing, and nobody can judge him for that. Grizzly collaborated. Now, T Grizzly wasn't just any rapper. He had his crew with him, including Doug and Sada. They were making waves in the music scene, but they also brought some serious drama with them. See, T Grizzly started getting cozy with both the 6 Mile and 7 Mile crews, which did not sit right with either side. It was like he was playing both ends against the middle. One day, T Grizzly dropped a track called Secrecy with the 42 Twins, stirring up even more trouble. Then he signed Sada Baby to his label, causing tension to boil over between the 7 Mile crew and the 42 gang. It was a mess, with everyone throwing shade and making threats left and right. Things got real ugly when shots were fired, hitting the manager and family member of another big Detroit rapper. It was chaos in the streets, and T Grizzly's crew was right in the middle of it all. Eventually, T Grizzly had to cut ties with Sada Baby after his aunt got caught up in the street feud. But even after that, the bad blood between the crews didn't die down. One night at T Grizzly's birthday bash, things almost came to blows when 42 Doug and his crew performed a diss track aimed at Sada Baby. It was like watching a powder keg about to explode, but somehow they managed to keep the peace, for that moment at least. But then rumors started flying that 42 Doug was behind a robbery that left Sada Baby without his chain and other stuff. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire, and everyone knew it was only a matter of time before things got even messier. Sada further exposed his rumor when he was publicly stating on Instagram that he does not associate with the Cleveland rapper Doughboy. Doughboy is a rapper from Cleveland, Ohio who kicked things off and rap as early as 2012 with his mixtape Boys in the Hood. Later, he made his name for himself and signed to Future's record label Free Bands. Even though Doughboy doesn't represent the same block or city, he became entangled himself in the beef between Doug and Sada and became a target on Sega Scope. Doughboy responded to confront and Say the Baby in a video, urging him to reveal the truth about the robbery incident.
What happened? Tell the people why you don't like me. I've been quiet this whole time. It's been so long. I ain't said.
Doughboy stepped into the picture claiming Sada Baby was not his buddy. He even posted on Instagram, pulling it out there for everyone to see. Doughboy, known for his rap game since way back in 2012, spilled the beans on a robbery incident involving Sada Baby. He called him out, asking why he didn't like him, why he was keeping quiet all this time. It was like a showdown on social media, but Sada Baby wasn't having it. He fired back, taking shots at both Doughboy and 42 Doug. He said they were making up stories just to get attention, but Doughboy wasn't backing down. He spilled the tea on what really went down, saying Sada Baby got robbed. That's when 42 Doug jumped in, laughing at the whole situation. He didn't waste a second to poke fun at Sada Baby. The tension kept building up between Sada Baby and 42 Doug. They were both proud Detroit representatives, but they just couldn't see eye to eye. Even T Grizzly, another rapper caught in the mix, couldn't smooth things over. He had his own troubles to deal with after losing his aunt. Even after the truth came out about the robbery, Sada Baby kept denying it all. He kept disrespecting 42 Doug, making things worse. Interviews, social media, you name it. They were taking shots at each other everywhere. You'd think with everything going on, they'd find a way to squash the beef, right? But nah, their egos and pride were too big for that. It was like a never-ending cycle of drama, leaving fans shaking their heads.
It's cool at the fact that he had let me hear his album before it came out. So I didn't give he was going to.
Now, Doug had been having a rough time lately. You see, trouble seemed to follow him like a shadow. Back in May 2020, he got nabbed by the cops for having a gun, and he's still dealing with that mess. But that's not even the half of it. One day, Doug was chilling on Baywell Street, minding his own business, when he stumbled upon a guy who'd been shot. It was a scary scene, but thankfully the paramedics showed up to help. Turns out 2 other guys got hit too. Things were heating up, and this was just the start of Doug's woes. Then there's Sada. He managed to steer clear of all the drama. People say he's not really into the whole gang thing, but who knows? Recently, Doug's past has come back to haunt him. He was also the possible target of another shooting that occurred at the filming of the music video for his collaboration with Roddy Ricch, For the Gang. Neither rapper was injured, but 2 other men were shot and later treated at the hospital. At first, fans thought that maybe Sada Baby had something to do with it based on their past beef, but another rapper from Alabama named OMB Peasy was arrested in connection with the shooting. Peasy has maintained his innocence, but since it's an open case, he hasn't spoken out much about what happened. Internet rumors claim that Peasy was not the one shooting up the music video, but was firing back at someone who was. The rapper was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and held on a $60,000 bond. So if it was a case of self-defense, they probably wouldn't have arrested him unless he refused to cooperate with the police. Peasy isn't known to have beef with Doug or Roddy Ricch, but he has collaborated with Sada Baby on his track One Me, so if the two artists are cool, that could point to a possible motive. The tension between Doug and Sada is thick enough to cut with a knife. Each new incident adds fuel to the fire. It's like a never-ending cycle of danger and hostility, but here's the kicker: nobody wants to see anyone get hurt. Losing either of them would be a real blow to Detroit. T Grizzlies fans are standing by him thick and thin. They're saying he didn't deserve all this drama, especially not after everything he's been through. They still believe he's as real as they come. And you know what? They might just be right. Hopefully both Sada and Doug can just leave the past alone so no more innocent bystanders get caught in the crossfire.